desolate reaches of an abandoned military outpost, fear was a constant companion, lurking in the shadows and whispering tales of the unknown. Among the soldiers stationed there, one legend reigned supreme: the haunted watchtower. Constructed decades ago, the watchtower stood tall and imposing, its weather-beaten timbers bearing witness to the passage of time. But it was not the tower's decrepit state that instilled fear in the hearts of those who served there. It was the whispered tales of a tormented spirit that wandered its crumbling halls. The story went that years ago, a soldier had been stationed at the watchtower, tasked with keeping watch over the desolate landscape. Cut off from the world and driven to the brink of madness by the isolation, he met a tragic end under mysterious circumstances. Some claimed he had taken his own life, unable to bear the weight of his solitude, while others spoke of a darker force at play, one that lingered within the tower's walls long after his passing. As a young soldier, I scoffed at such superstitions, dismissing them as the fanciful musings of idle minds. But that all changed the night I was assigned guard duty at the infamous watchtower. The wind howled relentlessly as I climbed the rickety stairs of the tower, each step echoing in the darkness. As I reached the top, a sense of unease settled over me like a shroud. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I settled into my post, my rifle cradled in my arms as I scanned the horizon for any sign of movement. Hours passed in agonizing silence, broken only by the distant cry of a lone wolf. But then, just as I was beginning to succumb to the numbing embrace of exhaustion, I heard it. A soft whisper, barely audible above the howling wind. "Help me," it pleaded, sending a chill down my spine. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest as I strained to listen. It came again, the whisper of a voice carried on the wind like a spectral echo. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling with a mixture of fear and defiance. But there was no response, only the eerie silence of the night. I shook off the sense of unease that threatened to overwhelm me, chalking it up to exhaustion and the tricks of an overactive imagination. But then, just as I was about to dismiss it entirely, I heard it again. The unmistakable sound of footsteps echoing through the darkness. I spun around, my rifle raised and ready to confront whatever unseen menace lurked in the shadows. But there was nothing. Only the empty expanse of the watchtower looming above me like a silent sentinel. "Show yourself!" I shouted, my voice echoing into the void. And then, as if in response to my challenge, I saw it. A figure emerging from the darkness, shrouded in the veil of night. I could feel the blood drain from my face as I watched it draw nearer, its features obscured by the swirling mist. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice barely above a whisper. But the figure said nothing, only reaching out with spectral hands that seemed to shimmer in the moonlight. Without thinking, I raised my rifle, my finger trembling on the trigger. But before I could fire, the figure spoke, its voice a haunting whisper that sent shivers down my spine. "Help me!" it pleaded once more, its words carrying the weight of 1,000 sorrows. I hesitated, torn between instinct and a gnawing sense of dread. But then, as if drawn by some unseen force, I lowered my rifle and reached out to the figure before me. And as our hands met, I felt a surge of icy cold coursing through my veins, enveloping me in a suffocating embrace. And then, in an instant, it was gone, leaving me alone in the darkness with nothing but the echoes of its haunting plea ringing in my ears. I stumbled back, my heart racing as I struggled to make sense of what had just happened. But try as I might, I could find no rational explanation for the events that had transpired. All I knew was that in that moment, I'd come face to face with the terrifying reality of the watchtower and the ghostly presence that haunted its crumbling walls. From that night on, I never looked at the watchtower the same way again, haunted by the memory of that spectral encounter and the chilling whisper that still echoed in the depths of my mind. And though I may never know the truth behind its dark and mysterious past, one thing remains certain. The legend of the watchtower will forever be etched in the annals of military history, a testament to the enduring power of fear and the mysteries that lie hidden in the shadows. As days passed, I couldn't shake the encounter from my mind. When I finally gathered the courage to confide in my fellow soldiers, most dismissed it as a figment of my imagination born from the isolation of guard duty. However, one soldier, Private Jacobs, listened intently, his eyes betraying a glimmer of recognition. "I've heard similar stories before," he admitted quietly, "and I've experienced something similar myself." His words sent a chill down my spine, confirming that my encounter was not an isolated incident. As we exchanged tales of our haunting experiences, a sense of camaraderie and shared dread settled over us, binding us together in the knowledge that the legend of the Watchtower was more than just a story. It was a chilling reality that had touched us all. In the heart of the Vietnam War, where the Mekong Delta stretched like a vast labyrinth of uncertainty, I found myself amidst the chaos, a young soldier thrust into the relentless rhythm of battle. Our unit, a ragtag group of weary warriors, patrolled the dense foliage, our senses strained against the oppressive humidity and the ever-present threat of ambush. It was a sweltering afternoon, the sun beating down mercilessly upon us as we trudged through the thick undergrowth. Each step felt like a battle against the suffocating heat, our boots sinking into the muddy earth with each labored movement. The air was heavy with the scent of rot and decay, and the distant echoes of gunfire served as a constant reminder of the violence that surrounded us. As we pressed forward, a strange sensation washed over me, a feeling of being watched, of unseen eyes tracking our every move. I brushed it off as paranoia, a side effect of the stress and uncertainty of war. But then, just as quickly as it had come, the feeling vanished, leaving me on edge and unnerved. Night fell like a heavy blanket, enveloping the jungle in a shroud of darkness. We huddled together in our makeshift camp, the flickering light of the campfire casting long, twisting shadows on the trees around us. I tried to push aside my unease, to find solace in the camaraderie of my fellow soldiers, but the feeling of being watched lingered like a specter in the darkness. As the hours passed, the jungle seemed to come alive with strange sounds. The chirping of crickets, the rustling of leaves, the distant howl of unseen creatures. Each noise sent a shiver down my spine, a reminder of the vast, untamed wilderness that surrounded us. And then, just as we settled in for the night, I heard it, a soft, insistent whisper that seemed to come from the very depths of the jungle. I strained to listen, my heart pounding in my chest as the words drifted through the humid air. "They're coming," the voice whispered, barely audible above the rustling of the leaves. "You need to leave." I froze, my blood turning to ice in my veins as a sense of dread washed over me. The voice sounded so real, so close, and yet there was no one there, only the oppressive darkness of the jungle closing in around us. I turned to my comrades, but they seemed unaffected by the voice, lost in their own thoughts and fears. Was I losing my mind, succumbing to the madness of war? Or was there something more sinister at play, something lurking in the shadows of the jungle, waiting to strike? 1 hour later, the whisper still echoed in my mind, refusing to be silenced. I tossed and turned in my makeshift cot, haunted by the memory of that chilling voice. Sleep eluded me, and each passing minute only served to deepen my sense of unease. 2 days later, we were back on patrol, the memory of the whisper still fresh in my mind. The jungle seemed quieter now, the usual cacophony of sounds replaced by an eerie stillness. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching us, waiting to pounce from the darkness. As we pressed deeper into the jungle, the tension in the air grew palpable. Every rustle of the leaves, every snap of a twig, sent us into a state of high alert. There was no sign of danger, no enemy lurking in the shadows. And then, just when I thought we were safe, the whispers returned, a soft, haunting murmur that seemed to come from all around us. I felt a chill run down my spine as the words drifted through the humid air. "They're here," the voice whispered, sending a wave of panic rippling through our ranks. "You need to run." Without hesitation, We turned and fled, our hearts pounding in our chests as we raced through the dense undergrowth. But no matter how fast we ran, the whispers followed us, a relentless echo of the darkness that lurked in the shadows. Days turned into weeks, and still the whispers haunted me, their chilling refrain a constant presence in my mind. I tried to push them aside, to focus on the task at hand, but they refused to be silenced, a constant reminder of the thin line between sanity and madness on the battlefield. In the end, I may never know the truth behind those whispers, whether they were the product of my own imagination or something more sinister. But one thing is certain, the memory of that night and the voices that echoed through the darkness will stay with me forever, a haunting reminder of the horrors of war and the toll it takes on the human spirit. Nestled deep in the rugged terrain, our outpost stood as a solitary sentinel against the harsh elements and unseen threats. As a young soldier stationed there, I had grown accustomed to the isolation and the eerie quiet that hung over our remote outpost like a heavy fog. One moonless night, as my comrade Sergeant Davis and I patrolled the perimeter, a sense of unease settled over me like a suffocating blanket. The air was still, devoid of even the faintest whisper of wind, and the darkness seemed to press in around us, swallowing us whole. We moved cautiously through the shadows, our senses alert for any sign of danger. The weight of our rifles in our hands served as a grim reminder of the ever-present threat lurking in the darkness beyond. But then, from the depths of the night, came a sound. A soft, haunting melody that sent shivers down my spine. It was a tune I had never heard before, a mournful lament that seemed to echo through the darkness, carrying with it a sense of foreboding. Sergeant Davis and I exchanged wary glances, our eyes searching the darkness for any sign of the source of the haunting melody. But there was no one there, only the empty expanse of the wilderness stretching out before us, cloaked in the impenetrable darkness of the night. We pressed on, the melody lingering in the air like a ghostly specter. Each step we took felt heavier than the last, weighed down by the oppressive silence that enveloped us. As we rounded a bend in the path, we stumbled upon a chilling sight. A lone soldier sitting on the ground with his head in his hands, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs. His uniform was tattered and stained with mud, and his eyes bore the haunted look of a man who had seen too much. "What's wrong?" I asked, my voice filled with concern. The soldier looked up at us, his eyes wide with fear. "They're coming," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the night silence. "We need to be ready." Before we could respond, he sprang to his feet and disappeared into the darkness, leaving us alone with his ominous warning hanging in the air like a specter. We continued our patrol, the melody still ringing in our ears like a distant echo. But then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the sound stopped, leaving us in a deafening silence that seemed to reverberate through the night, filling the air with an eerie sense of anticipation. And then, without warning, the enemy attacked. They came at us from all sides, their numbers overwhelming as they descended upon our outpost with a fury born of desperation. We fought bravely, our rifles blazing in the darkness as we struggled to hold our ground against the relentless onslaught. But the enemy was relentless, their determination matched only by their ferocity. In the end, we were forced to retreat, our outpost overrun by the relentless tide of enemy forces. As we fled into the night, the memory of the soldier's warning echoed in my mind, a chilling reminder of the dangers that lurked in the darkness and the thin line between life and death on the battlefield. And as we disappeared into the safety of the jungle, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were leaving behind more than just our outpost. We were leaving behind a part of ourselves, lost to the darkness forever. That's it for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe our channel. Click on one of the videos for other true horror stories.